Doesn't matter what time of the year it is, people are always on the lookout for jobs and employment. Michigan's unemployment rate remains high at 5.4% as of May 2025, ranking as the second highest in the nation, although it is slightly improved from April's 5.5%. But in the last couple of years, AI tools like ChatGPT, Bard, or Claude can assist job seekers in resume optimization, tailored cover letters, interview prep, and uncovering hidden transferable roles. Joining us now on the Splash Live is Christian Williams with the CJW Consulting Group of West Bloomfield. Christian, glad to have you with us.
Thank you. Good morning. Good to be here.
Good morning to you as well. And I want to jump right into things. Michigan's unemployment rate is currently among some of the highest in the country. How are you seeing this impact job seekers here in Greater West Bloomfield?
I think in general that we've entered somewhat of a white collar recession. Our unemployment rate is higher than the average. Average unemployment rate right now has been holding for the last several months at about 4.2%. However, we're at 5.4, so we're a little bit higher, and I think that a lot of that is linked to, of course, as everyone knows, in Michigan, we are heavily tied to the automotive industry. Basically, 20% of our jobs are tied to the automotive industry. We're also seeing a lot of layoffs, a lot of things related to the tariffs and things like that. So a lot of jobs are directly tied to manufacturing, or they're indirectly tied. So I think that's really impacting our economy.
You're absolutely right about that. And I know that job searches can be very taxing for a lot of people. It can be a very frustrating process to partake in. But as I said, there have been some great AI tools that have been coming out recently. What practical steps can local residents take starting today to use AI tools like ChatGPT or AI-powered platforms to stand out in their job applications?
So I think that you can definitely use AI as it pertains to your job search. I, of course, have a business where I'm focused on helping people with resume writing, interview preps, and really tailoring their documents to those roles. But at the same time, there's also AI that can be used for that. I do know people who have used AI to help with their resumes. Now, I don't personally suggest that you just use AI exclusively. I think you can use it as a tool, and then you still need to go in and, possibly make amendments really tailored toward the role that you're applying for. But ChatGPT has been, a useful resource for many. And people have been able to use that to kind of get some help with, writing their resumes, their cover letters, and things like that, and really customize it toward the role. But I think it's important to really remember that AI is very highly input driven. So you're only going to be as good as what you're feeding it. So you have to really know what to ask it to really make it specific and really make sure that you're creating something that's going to be tailored to you and be specific and not just a generic, document.
That's absolutely right. Don't have it be the only tool in your tool belt. Use it to help you get started, but then maybe fine tune it a little bit more from there. And
That's
you
correct.
just touched on this a little bit just a second ago, but with AI applying to thousands of jobs per minute, how can job seekers in West Bloomfield make sure that their applications remain personalized and meaningful?
I think it's definitely about really making sure that you're looking at the requirements section of the job posting, and you're really making sure that you have those skills. And that's one thing, that's where a lot of people go wrong, is they just kind of mass apply for 20, 30, 40 jobs, but they're not really targeting what the company is asking for. And so a prime example, let's just say that the company's job posting in the requirement section says they want someone with very strong leadership skills. Well, then you need to be showing how you've led a team, how you've managed a team. You need to say that you have strong leadership skills. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't really say that. They just kind of look at a job posting and they say, oh, okay, I have these skills, and then they apply. But I'm like, is your resume really saying that you have that? So even if you're using AI, you need to really make sure that you're showing that you have the skills that are requested in that job posting and that you're tailoring it accordingly.
For those just joining us right now on the Splash Live, I'm talking with Christian Williams with the CJW Consulting Group in West Bloomfield as we tackle unemployment rates in Michigan and in Greater West Bloomfield and tools that can be used to help you find some work. Now, you talked about it a second ago that manufacturing has been very hard hit in Michigan. What advice do you have for job seekers transitioning from that sector to maybe to something else? Are there new roles or industries that they should explore?
I think that you definitely have to focus on transferable skills. And that's the thing. Sometimes people are in manufacturing roles, and some of them may be paid very well, but they're somewhat in a how do I want to say? I don't want to call it a niche role, but are their skills really transferable to other industries? And I really think that this is a time to really be investing in your education, whether even if it's not a full degree program or it doesn't even have to be a 4-year degree program, but this is the time to really be getting, training, certificates. There's all types of education that you can, pursue, even if it, local community colleges. We're in Oakland County. Oakland County Community college is a great institution. So this is a time where I really think people need to be investing in their education, really leveling up those skills, really looking at what they can focus on and how it's transferable. If you're in a leadership role in manufacturing, focus on those transferable skills so that you can use those skills and get into another industry. But I think this is definitely a time where you have to remain versatile and you cannot put all of your eggs in one basket.
I like that. Use this opportunity to build your resume up a little bit more, to show what else you can do, and to learn some new skills along the way. That is very, very smart advice for anyone, whether they currently have a job or they're looking for something else. Going back to the AI tools that can help you find some other form of work, let's say you end up getting to a job interview. How should job seekers balance AI-driven tools with demonstrating essential human qualities like curiosity, communication, and confidence?
So I think it's definitely important to focus on, your soft skills as well, because at the end of the day, you can have the strong, technical acumen, you can have the education, but if you're not likable, if you're not adaptable, if you're not flexible, people may not want to hire you. You know what I mean? So I think you really have to focus on those hard skills. You can leverage your AI resources, but you have to be able to show that you're a good person for the job, and that's not always exclusively based on your technical skill set.
That's right. All things for everybody to stay aware of. Now, I'm curious, are there emerging job opportunities in our region that are created by the AI economy itself, roles that West Bloomfield residents should possibly be training for?
Well, what I would say is, we definitely have tech companies here, such as Google. Although Google's not necessarily specifically in West Bloomfield, they do have a presence in the Metro Detroit area. Like, there's an office downtown. I believe we have an office in Ann Arbor. So those companies like that, those big tech companies, they have a lot of potential AI opportunities. A lot of the tech roles are also remote, so you do not necessarily have to be, exclusively seated in the region where the company may be. There's lots of roles like AI product managers, research scientists. I had a client recently who worked in generative AI. So there's roles. She worked remotely. So there's roles and there's opportunity to break into that sector.
Once again, Christian Williams with the CJW Consulting Group of West Bloomfield is joining us right now on the Splash Live as we tackle unemployment rates in Michigan and what residents can do to help get them back into the workforce. Now, for young adults entering the job market right now, maybe in a state still recovering from job losses, what role can AI play in helping them find their first meaningful employment?
AI is a very useful tool, and you can ask AI almost anything, like a Chat GPT or something like that. And so I think one way to look at it is you can ask AI and say, hey, based on my skill set, based on the experience I've had, based on the internships that I've completed, what role would align best with my background. I think that's one way that you can use it. You can also use it with your resumes and your cover letters and things like that. I think this is the time to really focus on transferable skill sets and to focus on your impact. You cannot just have a task-oriented resume. You need to show your impact, how you've improved costs, how you've cut costs, how you've negotiated new relationships you've formed. You really have to focus on that, because a lot of the college students who are graduating right now, they're having a difficult time finding jobs. Again, we're in somewhat economically, we're not in the true recession, but we're in somewhat of a white collar recession. And I've even been reading lately how a lot of the elite MBA graduates from the Columbias and the Northwesterns and all those schools, they're having a harder time finding jobs. So if they're having a harder time finding jobs, I'm sure that, that's going to just trickling down to those who maybe didn't go to the as prestigious institutions. So just really focusing on your skill set, impact. That's the thing I cannot stress enough, is the impact. You cannot just, focus on tasks. You have to show impact, and you have to be able to associate numbers with it if you can.
That's right. All very, very wise advice for everybody in the community. And Christian, how are local employers, and this is what we're seeing, how local employers and community leaders are adapting to these tools. What role do you and CJW Consulting play in aligning job seeker skills with evolving local employer needs?
So typically when people come to me, what happens is they book consults with me. I have them send me a few jobs of interest, and what I do is one-on-one personalized consultation. I meet with them, and then I find ways to tailor their resume based on the skills that they have, so they can potentially land that job. Now, of course, I can't guarantee that that's going to happen, but I have great success rate with that. And so it's really just again focusing kind of on those transferable skills and going from there.
Well, Christian, we really thank you for stopping by and for giving us this wonderful information for all of us here on the Splash Live. Any final words before we let you go for people to take into consideration as they continue their job search?
The biggest thing that I can tell people right now is that you have to be adaptable and you have to be flexible. And so sometimes that means that you may have to step outside of the realm of what you're applying for. The biggest thing, I'm sure we've all heard, that you can't continue to do the same thing and expect different results. And so you have to switch up your job search. Sometimes you may have to apply for some things that weren't necessarily in your normal purview. And then also you're going to have to increase the number of job positions that you're applying for. This is not during COVID just a few years ago, there was a huge surge in hiring, a lot of online jobs, a lot of over hiring, and you could kind of quit a job, go get another remote job and move on. This is not that anymore. So you're going to have to put out a lot of applications, and just know statistically you're not going to get a call back from the majority of those applications because the application volume is so heavy. So you have to be applying, you have to put yourself out there, and you have to just think outside of the box.
Well, all great information for everybody in the West Bloomfield community to have. Christian, thank you so much for joining us here on the Splash Live today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Have a good day.